I would just say, I suppose, in general terms, and I know that there was a document about well-being measures that's progressing through Cabinet at the minute, and based very closely on the OECD Better Life Index. And one of the things measured in that is education, and one of the other things that's measured, or at least in the OECD framework, is the idea of capitals, and human capital being one of those things. And I think investment into education is investment into people, and it's investment into society. And I would have gone to college at the same time as Deputy O'Riordan did, and the same time as Deputy O'Reilly did, would have benefited from those structures as well. And actually a lot of that economic jump forward that we experienced, particularly in the early 2000s, before it ran away from itself, that was predicated on the fact that we invested very heavily into third level education and into young people who came through the system at the time. Like Deputy O'Reilly, I was in the first generation of my family to attend university, and was afforded the opportunity to do that because it was financially acceptable. It was financially achievable for my family to do that. And we absolutely have to maintain that, because it's the best possible investment that we can make into our society is in education. And while I mightn't share Deputy O'Riordan's depression today, or I mightn't go so far as in stating it, I do agree, I think, with a central point that he was going towards, which is about an authentic and honest, a genuine discussion around taxation and what taxation does. And nobody likes paying tax, but if we have an honest discussion about what it is that our tax pays for, what our taxation does within our society, and strange as it might be to say it, that taxation can actually be a force for good within our society, then we might be able to have a more honest discussion about those things that we invest in. And I suppose that brings me to my first point, which is about future funding, which is what this debate is about. Very much welcome that 307 million investment into core funding. We've discussed it at committee, and Minister, you've appeared before Education Committee for this and for Ukrainian provision just last night. I said there, and I'll say here, we do need to be careful to disambiguate the two things between what we're talking about in terms of core funding and then also the affordability that we should provide for in students. All of those measures that the Minister lists around the SUSI grant review scheme, all of those are very welcome, and it will afford an opportunity for access to a wider range of students for sure. I also welcome the Minister's suggestion that we might look at that income disregard. Similar to Deputy O'Reilly, I would have worked my way through college, and it was an important facet of how my family got to afford that third level education. If that cap has been in place since 2016, certainly that's something that we should be looking at. I think as well, this sector has benefited from having a senior cabinet minister addressing it. There has been an injection of a new energy. We have that HEA bill, which is a once-in-a-generation piece of legislation, 50 years in the making, very valuable. And the other thing that you have driven forward is the agenda around the technological universities. So I suppose I referenced my family. Well, all four of the children in my family had to leave the South East in order to access a university education. That is no longer the case. There is a university now in the South East. You won't be surprised to hear me repeat that we need to make that a university of scale and substance. We've had appointments in the president and in the chair of that institution, which has really set out the scale of the ambition that I think is welcome across the South East, but we have to do Bart de rare breacher, having those quality appointments without following it up with the commensurate funding that's going to be required. The other thing that I think that we do need to address in terms of technological university is that research capacity. And so I met, along with Minister Oisin Smith, I met with people in the Walton Institute in Waterford who really are driving forward in terms of research capacity within the South East, extremely important. But we do know at the moment the staffing arrangements that apply to technological universities are different from that and that applies to regular universities, and make it more difficult for people within the technological universities to engage in research. And I think it's very important that we have a look at that and that we make sure that we find a way of addressing that going forward. I might just talk briefly about that HEA bill, which I did reference earlier, and we did have a look at that in committee stage. As you say, I think it's due to come back to the House at report stage later this month. And if we're talking about future funding, and this is an issue that I did raise at committee, the state makes very, very significant contribution to the funding of our third level sector. And I would like to have transparency in terms of where the other funding comes. Because if we are investing that much as a state in education, and that's absolutely right and proper. In fact, I believe we should go further in investing in education in this state. I think we have a right as a state to be able to see where the other funding is coming from as well, to make sure that it's commensurate with the values of our state, and that we're happy that those funding sources are being accessed in providing for the third level education of our own children going forward. I'll say a word just about Ukrainian provision for Ukrainians who are arriving here. Ministry, I think you gave a very impressive overview of the provisions that have been put in place in a short period of time for a relatively limited number of students coming in, even though we have, I think we identified at the committee, round and about 3,000 students who might fall within a traditional age range for third level education. It's about 600, I think we arrived at in committee, that are currently accessing that. It does look like we have very good structures in place. You spoke about how the Erasmus scheme might be used to help people access education. That's all very welcome and all to the good. And something you referenced yourself in committee yesterday is this is an opportunity for learnings. That we are seeing a large number of people who are coming into the state now who are accessing things like, for example, English as a second language, and the education and training boards are becoming involved in that. That's something we need to hold on to, so that we're also providing that for people coming from Afghanistan or people coming from Syria or wherever. So we should definitely be taking learnings from those things. The announcement today, just this morning, was the third level access support for autistic students and students with an intellectual disability. That's extremely welcome. I think that will be felt in a lot of families. It will make a huge difference. And if we're serious about being an inclusive society, and Deputy Tully spoke about that, then we do need to provide pathways into third level education and then onwards into the workforce for people with disabilities. And so I think that is very welcome funding. And I think that's more or less what I wanted to get through. Minister, I do think it's been important to have this debate. I do think there's substantial steps in the right direction being made. I do think having a senior minister at the cabinet table to drive this agenda forward has re-energised the sector. And I hope to be able to work with the Minister through the Education Committee, and particularly on that HEA bill, to make sure that we get the strongest possible piece of legislation to safeguard the sector into the future.